Talktainment Radio Worldwide Sound. Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of Talktainmentradio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Good morning, good afternoon, or whatever you are. Good morning, afternoon, good night. Welcome to TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go on the world's greatest radio. And you are in touch with the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and this is Radio the Way It Should Be Heard. One of the best shows in radio that I may say, or at least according to the emails or Gmails that I get. A lot of people are listening, and I am so glad, and I know that Mr. Fuller is glad also. Now, I usually have Mr. Fuller or I read a statement before we give out the numbers to call in, so don't call in right now. Call in when I give you the signals to call in, and then I will also give you the email or Gmail where you can get in contact with. We like to get some things done, and then we can go on from there. As you well know, Mr. Fuller is an author of the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, a textbook, workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism, which is white supremacy. And he will take all of your questions or even comments. We do that too, and then he will address those, and then we move on from there. Now, the show really focuses on his comments and not mine, so I try very hard not to make a comment unless he allows me to. It's basically his comments and his theories that he has discovered on the system, or rather on racism. So you want to make sure that you address your questions to him, and then we can go on from there and have him do that. Okay, let's talk about donations. We are attempting to extend the compensatory code system concept for an additional hour, making it a 2-hour program. And our goal is to cover 1 year's worth of program in addition to having the program go for 2 hours, and donations are coming in. Now, some have written me, for example, Dorothy Morgan. I understand she had a problem in receiving the receipts. Well, I talked to the people that handle that, and they have not issued your receipts yet, but they will. They're collecting everybody, and then I guess they'll make a swoop if the show is to go on for the additional hour. They will send you your receipt, so don't worry about that. Speaking about that, Dorothy Morgan, Sean Pugh, and are the new members, and I just got a notice that we have met the 25% of the goal. So we're getting better. We're getting better, but we need to extend that, and you can do that, your donations, by writing to K&E, the letter K and E, World Network, Post Office Box 6184. That is in Columbus, Ohio, 43206, in care of the Compensatory Concept. And again, we will accept money order or a bank check, but no personal checks. And then again, we will email you your receipt, and all donations are final. So 25% of the goal has been done, and that's good. Want to again thank Dorothy Morgan, Sean in Brooklyn, New York. Dorothy, I believe, is in Kingsford Heights, Indiana. So we thank you for that, and the many others that have sent in their donations, and you need to do that too if we are to extend the compensatory concept for 1 hour. Okay, let me introduce to some and present to others Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and he comes to us live from Washington, D.C. every week at this time. And Mr. Fuller, first of all, good morning, and how are you?
Good morning. I'm still learning.
You are still learning. I was going to start the show off with a question, but I think I'll go ahead and do what I usually do by asking you what you'd like to start today's episode off with.
Well, I usually kind of start my day by mostly kind of glancing through the newspapers, the daily paper, whatever daily paper is available I happen to be looking at. And also this morning, I just picked up the book, Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey. I just took it off my shelf and just turned to a page. And I was thinking of how little has changed down through the years. The Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey is a book that I do recommend that people read. And it was first printed, the copyright of the copy that I have is the year 1923. And there's a passage in the book that I would just like to make a note of, and people can think about. Of this particular edition that I have, page 104 of the Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey, it says, "We must give credit to the great white race to the extent that they will fight among themselves, that they will cheat each other in business, but when it approaches the future and destiny of the race, a halt is immediately called. Not so with the Negro. He does not know when or where to stop in hurting himself." Now that's a passage on page 104 of the Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey in one of the paperback editions, 1923. We must give credit to the great white race to the extent that they will fight among themselves, that they will cheat each other in business, but when it approaches the future and destiny of the race, a halt is immediately called. Not so with the Negro. He does not know when or where to stop in hurting himself. And you pick up any newspaper, or you look at most television nowadays, and what do you see? Of reports among black people. A huge portion of what we call reports on what black people are doing here in 2016, not 1923, is about hurting themselves, mostly killing. Mostly killing. A favorite sport among black people. Kill, kill, kill. Find another black person, walk around, looking around, spotting another black person 2 blocks away, gravitate toward that person, and find a reason to kill that person. We had an incident right here in Washington just a week or so ago where that old adage, that old, you might say, part of what you call black culture, what are you looking at me for? What are you looking at me for? I'll kill you, black person that looks just like me, because you looked at me. Now, white people look at you all day. White people look at you all day, or they don't look at you because they don't even notice you because you're not that important. But here's some black person that you say, he's looking at me. What is he doing looking at me? And that's after going out of your way with a lot of us, let's tell the truth now, to get attention, doing everything you can to get attention, and then when somebody gives you the attention, what are you looking at me for? You don't know me. And then bang, because that's what happened the other day. Bang, bang, bang. I'll kill you. I'll kill you, person who looks like me. Why? Because you looked at me. That's why. I will kill you because you looked at me. Now, what is the look supposed to do? Well, you looked at me. Well, what has looking at you got to do with anything? Well, I don't know. I don't know why I do anything. I'm black. I ain't got no reason for what I do. I just do stuff. Just walk around on the street all day like a zombie, looking for something to do, and usually it's something that makes no sense at all. Now, that's not all black people by any means, particularly throughout the entire world, but in the Northwestern Hemisphere, that's a part of the culture that's been passed on. I heard stuff like that back in the early 1940s at least. And apparently, Marcus Garvey knew all about it back in the 1920s. This is 2016. We need to examine what we call black culture in fine detail and stop skirting around it and find out exactly what is the root cause of all of this. Of course, the root cause, in my opinion, is a system of white supremacy, which teaches black people that what you want to do in your life is find a reason to hurt yourself and other black people as much as you possibly can if you got color in your skin. That's the message that the white supremacists send to black people, particularly young black people, about their future. What you want to do with your life, since you don't have an idea of what to do anyway, I'll tell you, is find somebody that looks like you, try to hurt them as much as you can, and in the process hurt yourself as much as you can, and just get the hell out of our way, because we're the only people that really count, the white people who believe in white supremacy. These are the thoughts that I have for this morning.
Okay.
And I say that needs to be changed.
That needs to be changed. Okay, opening opinions, philosophies and opinions of Marcus Garvey, year 1923, was what Mr. Fuller addresses. And he says that how much things have not changed. They have basically stayed the same. That was in 1923, a good book. The Philosophies and Opinions of Marcus Garvey. And you just heard Mr. Fuller's interpretation of what he thought as he pulled the book off of his bookshelf. If you would like to get in contact with the show, the phone lines are now open. You can call 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com, and I will put your question, or actually it goes into a question rotation, and then, then when we have the opportunity to, we will pull up your question. And speaking of that, let's go to the phone lines if we can. What line, Galen? Not number one? Okay. Line number one. You are the first caller on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Bobby and Mr. Fuller. Say, look, let me just I want to make two comments.
They got to be quick now.
Yeah. With the police, and all this, police is just an extension of the sheriff and the deputy and the posse. They also double as the lynch mob. See, we got black people have to understand that. For white people, it's just a continuation of the sheriff and the deputy. For blacks, it's just a civil service job, see. But white people, is in the name of they trick themselves into thinking that it's in the name of their national security. Now, the other, like Mr. Fuller was saying about black, and we got all this trouble. We got trouble with the men and the women. Look at all the sisters that do a lot of bad stuff and help. I believe Mr. Fuller did something about black ladies and how easily they could be used. Look at Dorothy Dandridge, Billie Holiday, a whole bunch of them who had to just trying to get a stepping stone, ended up marrying some white person, getting used real bad. Yeah, we got all kind of problems. It's the male and the female, but it's real devastating when our female gets used like that and selling out black men. If you can comment on both of those for me, I would appreciate that. You both have a nice day.
All right, thank you. Mr. Fuller, comment, please.
Well, we've all been poisoned by the white supremacists. They start putting poison in us right from day one, right from first contact. In other words, you're going to have a poisoned mind. And your mind is going to be so poisoned that you're going to be completely unable to do anything of any constructive value. Everything that you want to do is going to have a destructive component to it. That's going to be the overwhelming component. That's what the white supremacists want in the minds of all people of color. Be destructive. Mm-hmm. And then I will punish you for being destructive after teaching you how to be destructive. Because I'm not going to teach you anything of constructive value. I'm not going to lead you down any road that's going to take you to anything that's constructive. That's not what I do as a white supremacist. That's the voice of the white supremacist.
Okay.
So, so therefore, we have to put the brakes on ourselves. Mm-hmm. And the only way to do that, like I put in the textbook for victims of white supremacy, well, I'll say the first initial thing in doing that is to see to it that we make every contact constructive. We minimize contact in order to minimize conflict. Every time we make contact with each other and we don't have a plan that's already constructive, it means the poison is going to spread. That's automatic. We'll start being discourteous toward each other. We'll start being hostile toward each other. We'll start a fight for no reason at all. For no reason at all except you look just like me. So therefore, you're somebody I'm supposed to fight every chance I get. Because I can't stand myself and I can't stand you for looking like me. That's the philosophy. That is our philosophy. We have to be serious about that. And the only way to counteract that is to avoid contact with each other unless we have a constructive plan for what we are going to say and what we are going to do. It has to be almost precise, like just taking us by the hand and walking us through it. Mm-hmm. Every word that we say has got to have a constructive value.
Okay. All righty. Talktainment Radio is a 24/7 no-charge worldwide broadcasting facility that have hosts delivering on various topics such as news, lifestyle, sports, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Now, here's one that I would like to share with you quickly. It's called For Such a Time as This. All you have to do is join host Bob Rand as he gets into stimulating conversation on many topics dealing with today's life. For Such a Time Like This is broadcast exclusively on Fridays on TalktainmentRadio.com. That is radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, the co-host of The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on TalktainmentRadio.com, radio the way it should be heard. If you would like to get in contact with the show, you may by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com. And, of course, your question will go into the question rotation, and then I will, depending upon what comes up, have an opportunity to read your question. Going to the question rotation, have a question from Renzo, Mr. Fuller. He says, what is Mr. Fuller's work history? And then he says, context. I would like to reference Mr. Neely Fuller's frame of reference when discussing work issues. Did he retire from a company? Did he own his own business? That's what Renzo wants. Mr. Fuller?
Oh, no, I was always... I was in business when I started because my father left me a business, Neely Fuller Sr. in Muskogee, Oklahoma. Left me several businesses, the family businesses. I had two sisters and a brother, and we all were there on North 2nd Street in Muskogee, Oklahoma, many years ago. and my father passed away and passed on the business to us. But I was the principal person working in the business at that time. It was a restaurant. It was a hotel. It was a barber shop, a beauty parlor in the back of that. Next door to that had been a meat market that we had subleased to a man named Mr. Bryce. And there was also a pool hall, all owned by the Fuller family at that time. That's how I started out. Age 19, I had to take over because my father passed. And I was unable to keep the business going because the town was dying. And, of course, you couldn't have white customers, which would have kind of buoyed it up a little bit, I guess, if I could have had that. But I didn't have that because the black people didn't make enough money to sustain the businesses. Most of the black people have gone away during the war, World War II, that is, and they didn't come back. All right? So the town was dying, and so I was practically dying with it. So I got out of there, and so by first of all being drafted into the Army, stayed in the Army 2 years, came out of the Army after I was drafted, after serving in Korea, and then after 4 years of just kind of bumming around and trying to keep the business going, what was left of it and all like that, I finally wound up in desperation going into the Air Force. And then when I got out of the Air Force, I wound up in Washington, D.C., and I worked for the Bureau of Engraving and Printing for 32 years. And I was always associated with what you might call, starting from having my own business, always associated with what you might call the government. Every job I ever had was with the government. And some people have ridiculed me for that. They said, you were in the military? You know, and you're talking this racial stuff? I mean, why were you in the military in the first place? And then some people will say, and then you working for white folks? I mean, you know, in the government? Well, even when I was in so-called business for myself, I was working for the system of white supremacy. Mm-hmm. It's impossible to be in the system of white supremacy without working for the system of white supremacy. It's no such thing as a black person who is independent of the system of white supremacy anywhere on this planet since the beginning of white supremacy. And that includes all of the presidents of the so-called countries that are all black. They are in the system of white supremacy. They take their signals. They take their dictates. They take their very livelihood, quote, unquote, from the white supremacists. Let's be real about that and stop playing games. We are all in service to the system of white supremacy if you have color in your skin and you're breathing. And maybe even if you're not breathing, you're in their cemeteries because they own all the work, all the dirt that you're under.
Okay. All right. Well, Renzo, I hope that answered your question. Again, from the question rotation, we have this question from Jeffrey. He says, Mr. Bobby, my name is Jeffrey. Mr. Fuller's work is changing the world. My question is, if you go back to when slavery was in effect, 16 or 1700s, and so many black women and black men were being raped by whites, blacks were considered 3/5 human beings. Would it be safe to say that it was white people who were more animal-like or unhuman to rape or have sexual relations with something that is not human?
Wait a minute. What is that question? What's the last part of that question?
He said blacks were considered 3/5 human beings. Would it be safe to say that it was white people who were more animal-like or unhuman to rape or have sexual relations with something that is not human?
Well, people who do that, you could say that, but then what I do in the textbook for victims of white supremacy, I say that there are no human beings on this planet, period. That the people on human means humane. And what does humane mean? It means you practice justice. There's no other way to measure it, meaning you guarantee that no person is mistreated, and guarantee that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. Now, there's no record of people being in a situation where this has been the case. None. No written record, no recorded record, no theoretical record where this has appeared. So we are not human beings. We are beings, but everything that we do, for the most part, is of non-constructive value when you draw a line under it and add it all up. The whole world is in turmoil and has been as far back as anybody can remember. That's why we need to do away with all these systems that we have and replace it with a system of justice where you guarantee that no person is mistreated in any area of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, or war. No one is better than anybody else as it stands now. And no one should be better than anybody else in the future, because everybody should be a human being, the very thing that you just mentioned. But nobody is qualified to be that, particularly in a world that's dominated by racism, which is designed to deliberately make people inhumane. That is the result of it. White supremacy has their record. They even brag about it, how they go about killing people, just going from place to place, just wiping out people, blowing up everything, bragging about how many bombs they dropped on how much territory, and keeping statistics on it, and glorifying that kind of nonsense and having all of their subjects glorifying it and trying to be like that. I want to drop a bomb on somebody too, because that's what I've been taught. I went to school and they taught me all about the heroes, and every hero was somebody had a sword in his hand or her hand or a spear or a gun or something that would be associated with killing. All of our heroes. Stop and think about it. As we speak right now, in every school, turn the page, children. Now, here is Sir Lancelot. He was a great warrior. Here is Julius Caesar, another great warrior. Here is Alexander the Great, another great warrior. He killed so many people that when he ran out of people to kill, he sat down and cried, because there were no more worlds to conquer. Everybody applaud, children. Everybody in the class stand up and clap your hands in honor of the great Alexander the Great. Now, you get a straight dose of that. When you get recess, you going out there and put a pistol in your waistband and look around for somebody to kill. Why? Because you just learned that in school. That's what you should be doing. La-di-da. Welcome to the real world.
Wow. Wow. That is something else. Mr. Fuller is the author of the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. And before we go to break, Mr. Fuller, could you talk about the title and how people can get the book?
The title is the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, which means the book is directed to the individual victim of racism. Because in my opinion, when you solve the problem of each individual victim of racism, you solve the problem of all victims of racism.
Okay.
You can get the book by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. And the method for ordering will be there.
Okay. TalkTameRadio.com. We go where you go. Check us out on WCRS-FM 98.3 Wednesday and Sunday evenings. Blogs and podcasts are available. Download the TalkTameRadio.com app to your cell or tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. Stay right there. This is Mr. Bobby, the co-host of the Compensatory Concept on TalkTameRadio.com, and we speak with Mr. Neely Fuller every week, and he is on the line right now. And if you would like to call in, you may do so by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at MrBobby@gmail.com. Mr. Fuller, there's been a lot of controversy on this particular subject that I'm getting ready to bring up. And it says that a blind husband files for divorce after learning his wife is black. And Daryl wrote in and wanted you to answer the question. He says, Dear Mr. Fuller, I remember you telling us that if a white person, now I'm reading it just the way he wrote it, if a white person got dementia or is blind, then they're free from being in a white supremacist because of the blind person. They can't see color. Well, as much love and respect I got for Mr. Fuller, I gotta disagree after seeing this story here. They say she tricked him in that maybe, and that may be so, but still, he's saying that even with being blind, he still never wanted to date a black woman. So he's a racist, white supremacist, right? And then he goes on and said, check this out with Mr. Fuller for the show so he can respond. And I may not be able to call in, probably going to have to listen on the podcast. But if you can get it to him, then put this in the rotation. It comes from Daryl. So apparently a white man, blind man, married a black woman. I guess they were married for some time. And then he discovered that she was black, and now he wants to file for divorce. And Daryl wanted to know, is he racist? Or is he a white supremacist?
Well, he could give his reasons why he did that, but I never said anything about blindness. I said able. Here is my statement, and I want that cleared up, so that, and paid attention to. If, in a system of white supremacy, a white person is able to be a racist, if, in a system of white supremacy, a white person, a person classified as white, is able to be a racist, underline the word able to be a racist, he or she probably is one and should be suspected of being one by a person who is a victim of racism, white supremacy. That's my statement. That's what I mean by codification, so that we don't get lost. I didn't say anything about being blind, anything like that. A person can be blind, but they can still remember, maybe, or maybe they would be. They can be told, if they were not always blind, what a color looks like. Because if you're born blind, I presume you don't have any idea of what red or blue or green or anything looks like. But if someone even tells you about a classification of a person and you're born blind, and they'll say, well, we have a classification of people. You are a blind person, so you've never seen people, period. You don't even know what you look like yourself. But we do have classifications of people, blind person, and we have people classified as white, and we have people classified as non-white. Now, you don't know what any of that looks like, but if you are blind and you are a white person, I will tell you that you are supposed to dominate and mistreat anyone who is classified as non-white, you as a white person. So if I was a racist, and I'm trying to teach a white person how to be a racist, and that white person is blind, say, well, I don't know white from, well, I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't know anything about this thing of, of white and non-white and all like that, because I've never seen it. Say, well, you've never seen it, but I'm telling you. So therefore, it will have to be in your mind that when I say that you are shaking hands with a person who has color in his or her skin, a non-white person, then I'm saying you are now in the process of shaking hands with a person who has color. Don't touch that person's hand. because that's verboten or something like that. Don't shake hands with that person. Don't be friendly with that person. And the blind person might say, well, okay, well, what's that all about? Well, it's all about racism, because that's the system that you're in. But since you are born blind, you don't know about that, so I have to teach you about that. So even though you're blind, you'll know how to operate in the real world. See what I mean?
Yes,
so
sir.
That's the way that would work.
Okay.
I imagine. But I'm saying what I have said, if a white person in a system of white supremacy is able to be a racist, he or she probably is one and should be suspected of being one.
Yes, sir.
By whom? By a person who is a victim of racism.
Okay.
Because if you're in a system of racism, somebody's got to be a racist. But nobody's going around pointing out who they are.
Okay.
Every now and then, some person will stand up and say, well, I'm a racist. But that's rare.
Yes.
Particularly in this day and time.
Okay.
In 2016.
All right. Well, Darrell, I hope that Mr. Fuller addressed your issue and write in again. Okay, let's go to the phone lines. Line number 1, you are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question?
Hello, my name is George, and I'm from Michigan. How you doing, Mr. Fuller, Mr. Bobby?
Good, George.
I had a question. I heard in previous shows that Mr. Fuller mentioned that he still goes through the voting process, considering white supremacy is in control of everything, and that, they control voting, they control all the other things of this planet. What is the point in voting?
Oh, you learn. You learn something about what's going on in the world. You should take advantage of what situations you have in this world that I call a race prison. In other words, all people of color are in prison. We're born in prison. So you can't operate outside of the prison. You have to operate inside the prison because the entire world is dominated by the system of white supremacy. So if you're on this planet and you have color in your skin, you come under the dictates of the prison masters. And the entire world is a prison. And if you have color in your skin, you are a prisoner of that system, the system of white supremacy. You are an inmate of that prison. You can't operate outside of what you're inside of. You're inside of it completely. There's no such thing as a black person, a non-white person, that's outside of the system of white supremacy, outside of those walls. You're always inside the walls. So therefore, you do what you can inside the walls, because you can't do anything else except maybe not exist, in which case you can't do anything anyway if you don't exist. But if you exist in this prison system, you work as best you can within the system, like in any prison. You get a job in the kitchen if you can. I mean, why? Because you can get access to better food, maybe. Or you get a job in the infirmary, where you can get access to maybe better medical care. And you do the same thing with the voting process, even though you know you're not going to get very much, and you're definitely not going to get out of prison by voting. That's not going to happen, all right? Because the people who you'll be voting for, they can let you out at any time. Because after all, they run the entire voting system. The white supremacists run all of the voting systems everywhere on the planet. But you might be able to get a little more benefits, just like learning to read and write. You might say, well, I'm in this prison system. I'm a black person under racism, so I'm not going to learn to read and write. So I'm not going to school. No, that doesn't make sense, because it means you won't be able to do anything in the future, period. So go on to school and read and write. They'll say, well, that's run by the white supremacists anyway. Sure, everything is run by them, but you got to start somewhere. Like Andy Dufresne, I will say, Shawshank Redemption. Study that movie. That's the fast way to understand, I guess, what I'm talking about. It might help you. He was in there on the bogus charge. Tim Robbins played the part of a person called Andy Dufresne.
Yes.
He was in there charged with double murder, but he didn't do the murder. Just like black people didn't do anything to warrant what we are going through, okay? So you're in this bogus prison, run by this bogus warden, who is just as crooked as he can be. He's not trying to reform anything. He's just punishing people, taking advantage of people, but you're in the prison. So what did Andy Dufresne do? He got a job in the warden's office.
Okay.
And from then on, he could use the warden's strength against him.
Right.
And if you're familiar with the movie, the way it played out, I mean, it played out just like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You have to work from where you are.
Okay. Was that it, my brother from Michigan?
Yeah. Also, I was wondering. I've heard, like in the past, I've heard people say that in the voting process, it only helps the powers that be to realize that you're still buying into this so-called matrix, and they're going to only give you who they want to give you anyway. So that's why I was wondering that question.
Oh, sure, but you learn. See, the whole idea, everything is about learning. That's why I always start off this program by saying, I'm still learning. If you don't learn anything about what's going on and how it's done, you can never get out of the situation that you're in.
Correct.
Black people have been taught to be hostile toward learning. I mean, that's why what's that cliche saying? If you want to hide something from a black person, put it in a book.
Put it in a book, yes.
Because they definitely, black people look at a book, it's not true, but that's the thing, that we joke about and all like that. I mean, a black person will break in somebody's house, and the first thing they'll knock out of the way is every book that you can see. But those actual books that they are knocking aside, if they open one of them, they probably can find out something that will prevent them from ever being in position to want to break into somebody's house, because that book might show them how to become a millionaire overnight. But they'll knock that aside, trying to find some cheap electronic device that they can pawn.
Sure.
See what I mean?
Yes, sir.
When
yes,
all
sir.
of their salvation might be in a book. But we have been taught to systematically brush aside anything that has to do with learning anything of constructive value. Now, you can teach us a lot of garbage, and we'll embrace that. But anything that has constructive value, if you're black, you're supposed to run away from it as fast as you can.
All righty. Thank you, my brother from Michigan. Thank you for your call. Appreciate that. TalkTameAtRadio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalkTameAtRadio.com app to your cell or tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, the co-host of The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTameAtRadio.com. Tell a friend, because it's all over the world. You can call in if you'd like at 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com, and we will put your question in the question rotation, and we will have Mr. Fuller address that question. Okay. Okay, we have a call. Line number 1. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. What is your question?
Hello, is this me?
It's you.
Okay, thank you. Just following up on the last caller, what if what we have learned from participating in the electoral process is that the very participation in it is an illusion, and that's what's upholding that particular system. And so by not participating in it, we remove the illusion, and it creates this new effect, which could lead to dismantling the electoral system. What do you think about that?
Well, a person can try it if they think it will work. I don't think it will work, because the white supremacists, if you're talking about dismantling the system of white supremacy, they don't care what system you dream up. They don't care what you do as long as not a detriment to their system. At one time, no black person could vote for anybody because the white supremacists said so.
Right.
See what I mean? So, there wasn't any progress associated with that either.
Is it progress, or are we basically saying we have to accept choosing the lesser of two evils, which is still we're picking an evil?
In answer to that question, the answer is yes. And as long as you're in the prison system, you have a choice of choosing the lesser of two evils, whatever that might be, on a minute-by-minute basis. I mean, because you don't have any other choice, because you are a prisoner. See, we can't look at it like we're outside the prison. You're always inside the prison. You were born inside the prison. You have to actually, in order to not be a prisoner of war, of the race war, you have to actually dismantle the entire prison. And that's a piece-by-piece thing that I think can be done by individual efforts. That's why I call it the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept. I think we need a code for doing that. Why? Because the actual walls that prison is made up of is a code. It's a code of behavior by the white supremacists. And that's kind of difficult for most people to understand. But if you can figure out what they do and how they do it, and then you come up with a counter code that applies to every area of activity without exception, you've got to cover it all: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. You have to have something to counter what they do in all those areas of activity, and do it on an individual basis each and every day, and then the walls just disappear.
Well, isn't that an individual counter? What I'm saying is, if an individual chooses not to vote, which is in itself, that's an action. Not voting is itself an action. If their whole system is based on this, government by the people, or at least the illusion, then an individual can choose not to vote, not participate in that system. They're still going to get the lesser of two evils, but at least they didn't pick the evil, or they didn't choose the evil. They're going counter to what they want. What the system wants is for everyone to vote, to maintain the illusion.
The white supremacists have already covered that base. They had that base before they allowed black people to vote.
Yes.
See, I mean, in other words, it's not the lesser of two evils, it's just switching one evil from another. And not only that, it puts you in a position where you're really at a greater disadvantage now, because the white supremacists will say, well, you're not getting anything because you didn't vote. You're not getting
anything. We already don't get anything.
All right. And so you can tell them that, and they will say, well, it's because you don't want anything and you're not going to get anything. So nothing is new. Nothing has changed. I wasn't going to give you anything if you voted, and I'm not going to give you anything if you don't vote. So
there's is there any value in the conscientious objector?
Hello?
Yeah, is there any value in the conscientious objector?
It could be. I'm saying anybody who wants to, the United Independent System says, try anything that you think will work. I just don't believe it will work because we had that before, where no black person was allowed to vote. You say, you better not come anywhere near these polls, or we will kill you.
He did that.
Okay? We will kill you. We won't just drive you away. We will chase you down and kill you if you come anywhere near a voting booth. But then they said, oh, okay, we changed the rules. You can come in and vote now. But either way, they had it set up.
Right.
That you can only go where they want you to go in their prison system.
Either way.
The whole world is a prison.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you, my brother. Brother, we've already given you a lot of time.
But
Thank you.
It's such an interesting debate. This is one opportunity that I have, which is, what if they put a gun in my hand and say, okay, we want you to shoot somebody? At that point, I conscientiously object and say, I'm not doing that because it's morally wrong, or I don't agree with that. So, isn't that an example of where you say, you know what, you're forcing me to do one of these two things. I don't like either of the choices. Either, you're going to kill me or you're going to do whatever. So I'm not going to do the thing that I believe is wrong.
Well, then don't do it. I mean, that's the United Independent concept. Different people have different levels of fear and different levels of want.
Okay, we've got to move on.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Fuller.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you for the call. As Mr. Fuller said, you have to understand it does take some time, but you have to understand that this is a prison system. If you don't look at it from that point, and he gave the example of the Shawshank Redemption, if you don't really look at it at this point, you're really not going to understand it. We do thank the caller for the call, and I can understand what the caller, was saying, but you have to take advice, or at least consider the advice that Mr. Fuller is saying about that. The Shawshank Redemption gives a perfect example of the mental prison system that we are in, and that system is called the system of white supremacy. Speaking about that, man, listen, the next show coming up, Crossing Cultures, and man, that fine co-host, Julia Lynn Walker, is in the house. So make sure that you stay tuned on TalkTainmentRadio.com for that show, and call in, and man, she really explains it. And she got a little laugh out of that. Mr. Fuller, a caller, or rather a call. And Mr. Anderson, I'm not going to be able to get to your call, but Malachi 999 said this, and I'm going to try to read this as quickly as I can. And he gave me the authority to change words, which I'm not. He says, "Peace, Mr. Bobby. I have a question for Mr. Fuller, and I wouldn't mind your input on it, as well as I respect and appreciate what both of you brothers are doing. I have both Mr. Fuller's books, and they are one of the best investments I've made. Okay, let me see how to word this question. I may need you to paraphrase this. I grew up learning about Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, Adam Clayton Powell. I've always had love for my people, but I think the system of racism, white supremacy, is taking a toll on me, and I want to know what I could do to stop that. Sometimes I feel like I can't stand my own people 90% of the account as I have with my own people is negative and not constructive, to point where I just spend all of my time with just my wife, to the point where I spend all that time with my wife and children and a handful of friends. I know a few people that are classified as white and have a few of my brothers that I hang out with. The white ones share information. They appear to be friendly, helpful, and honest, and black people in my circle. But everyone else seems to be negative, confrontational, dishonest, selfish, and the same thing with so-called Mexicans. For every 10 I encounter, I may have one good experience. I don't like this feeling. I don't like feeling this way, but it just makes me sick. I just want my people to be better and conduct ourselves better than the suspected white supremacists. Thank you, Mr. Fuller and Mr. Bobby." I'm sorry, Mr. Fuller, I didn't have time. I guess I'll have to do that next week when we come back. So, Mr. Malachi, I will hold your question and have Mr. Fuller address that. Hopefully that'll be the first question next week. Anyway, Mr. Fuller, thank you. Callers, thank you. Hey, I read them just as I get them, so you got to bear with that. TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio, the way it should be heard. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next week.
Thanks for listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters is why. One should always ask it.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You've got the power. The world's greatest radio. TalkTainmentRadio.com.